What is up, guys? Tony Picks here with my first upload of 2019 for the UFC 143 Fight Night, Cejudo versus Dillashaw. Doing things a bit differently. I got my webcam on with my kind of what you see in Scream with the cool Toronto skylight background there. I have a time lapse of the view on my channel if you guys want to check that out. But we're going to get right into this one, guys. Starting off the fight card. By the way, there's been a lot of changes on the fight card, but this is the most recent fight card, up-to-date fights. There's been a lot of changes, but yeah, this is what's so far the most updated fight card, and it is a Monday today. So hopefully these fights stick and there isn't any last-minute changes. Starting off the card with the Chase Renkin. It's a last-minute call-up for Kyle Stewart. Chance was supposed to fight Randy Brown initially, which I think was a much tougher matchup than Kyle Stewart. Kyle Stewart did have a bout on Dana White Contender Series. He did win that, but because his opponent hurt his ankle, he wasn't really impressive in the only round he had really on the Contender Series. He did score a knockdown, but other than that, he didn't really stand out in any departments. Chance is more of a well-rounded fighter. He trains out of Alliance MMA, so he is around high-caliber fighters, of course, with Jeremy Stevens and Dominic Cruz training there. So he does have good trainers and good sparring partners. Relatively similar in reach. They're pretty tall guys. I really think that Chance has the edge in every department: the striking, jiu-jitsu, the wrestling. He has more UFC experience. He's coming off of a loss to Balam, but he did show some decent striking at some point. Although he does keep his head on the center and he doesn't really move his head, I'm sure he'll improve at Alliance and now with some UFC experience. Kyle Stewart coming in a short notice, first UFC bout. I think the odds are stacked against him here. With that being said, I'm getting a big advantage to Chance in this fight. I think he's going to edge it out by submission or even KO. I really think that he's going to get a finish in this first fight. I think that Kyle Stewart isn't ready for the step up yet. He didn't really show. He didn't impress me at all in Dana White Contender Series. Like I said, he won by injury. He didn't, have a significant win. It's a last-minute call-up. It was supposed to be, I believe, Dwight Grant was supposed to be a call-up, but he wasn't cleared because of an eye injury. I'm not too sure what was up with Randy Brown. He tweeted that he was 100% healthy. But that UFC wouldn't let him fight, so yeah, I'm gonna give the round to Chance, not the fight to Chance, but I think he's gonna end it in the second or first round via rear naked. Moving on to the next fight, we have two really good strikers in Belal. Remember the name Muhammad, squaring off with Jeff Hands of Steel Neal. Belal Muhammad's a scrapper. He's coming off of some big wins. Let's go into his fighter profile here quickly. Coming off of some big wins, of course, just beat Chance Renkin. Tim Means, Jordan Mean, Randy Brown. If you'll notice here, a lot of decisions here. So he is a scrapper, but he doesn't really show knockout power. Like he does hit hard, but not really knockout power. He had a lot of good shots on Chance, but he didn't put him away. Same with Tim Means. Landed a lot of good shots, just couldn't put him away. Vicente Luque obviously KO'd him. Vicente Luque is an outstanding fighter. So he's coming off of 4 pretty decent wins, unanimous decisions, 1 split against Tim Means. Whereas Jeff Neal's coming off of that huge KO of Frank Camacho. And he's coming off of another win, I believe, too. Let's see the name here. Brian Camozzi, who's kind of a bum. Chase Weldon, that was a really good KO on the Contender Series. He's coming off of 3 finishes. So he definitely has that confidence that he can end the fight, whereas Balam Muhammad's coming off of 3 decisions. Not really known for being a finisher. He does train with Rufus Sport, Balam Muhammad, so he does have high caliber training partners. Jeff Neal, not sure where he trains, but he's quite outstanding on the feet. I think this is going to be a stand-up battle. I think that in terms of UFC experience, obviously you give the edge to Balam Muhammad, but in terms of sharpness and clean striking, I'm giving the edge to Jeff Neal here. Balam Muhammad does utilize leg kicks really well, so I think that may be a factor in this fight if he's able to use them early to kind of slow down Jeff Neal, because Jeff Neal is extremely quick, he's explosive, and he mixes it up very well. He doesn't just throw the high kick, he'll kind of shoot it low and then swing it high, or he'll throw it after his punches. Even though Balam Muhammad has that experience, I think this is actually relatively close, because if Jeff Neal starts winning the stand-up battle, which I think he will, I believe that Balam Muhammad has the ability to make this a dirty fight, to grapple him, take him to the ground, and edge out some rounds like he's done before in the past. But what I think the deciding factor is, in my mind, is Jeff Neal's power. I think that he's going to be able to touch up Balam Muhammad. Balam Muhammad is easy to hit. He does rely on his chin because he does have a good chin. But I think against a fighter like Jeff Neal, who mixes up the hands and the feet well, I think he's going to get clipped, and I think he's going to get put away early. It could go either way, though. Like I said, it could be a kind of a dirty match where Balam Muhammad drags him down, takes him to deep waters for the first time in the UFC. That I could easily see that happening. But I'm going to give the edge, because every fight starts standing up, to Jeff Neal. I think Balam Muhammad gets hit too easily, and Jeff Neal is a very clean, polished striker. I think he's going to be able to put him away in this one. Moving on to the next bout, we have Jovan Edwards squaring off against Dennis Bermudez. Bermudez coming off of like 4 or 5 losses. Recently lost to, I think, Rick Glenn or something. I believe Rick Glenn. It was he lost a split decision. I remember I had Dennis Bermudez winning on a parlay, and he lost a split decision. I personally thought he won that bout, but it was Rick Glenn. Andre Fili coming off of, is there a 5th? No, 4. Yeah, coming off of 4 losses. So really his back's against the wall on this one. He's a UFC vet, so I think he mentally knows that he kind of needs this win just to stay relevant, if not to stay in the UFC. T. Edwards coming off of a brutal KO of who KO'd him? Oh, his name. The European kickboxer, Don Madge. Wicked KO by Don Madge. I really think that Don Madge is a sleeper in that division. I think he's going to be on the rise really soon. We kind of seen him training Cyborg in the highlight videos. I think he's going to be a stud. But back to this matchup here, we got 2 really good stand-up, or 2 decent stand-up fighters, pretty solid wrestlers, decent jiu-jitsu game. I'd say, if anything, give the edge maybe to Bermudez, because Jovan doesn't really have any submissions or anything like that, but he does have good wrestling background. I forget, he was a collegiate level wrestler. Bermudez also has some good wrestling there. And they're both decent stand-up fighters. We really didn't really see Jovan stand up in the Contender Series. He had a quick knockout. Bermudez, he's a decent fighter, doesn't really mix it up well, kind of brings the same style every fight, throws the same kind of looping blows, doesn't really mix up the kicks or anything like that. I find no matter how hard he trains, he always has some sort of a stamina issue. I didn't get to see Jovan Edwards any like his cardio or anything like that. With that being said, guys, I think this fight's going to play out. It's going to be a stand-up fight. I think I'm going to give the edge to Edwards on the strength that he's a bigger 2 inches. He's got an 8-inch reach advantage here. Or no, 6-inch, sorry, horrible math. 6-inch reach advantage. So I think he's going to be able to use that reach well and really stop Dennis Bermudez's takedowns. There's a game plan to beat Bermudez. Kind of just use your range, pick him apart, avoid the takedowns, get back to your feet, and just pick him apart. Bermudez hasn't been as dominant on top, even when he gets a takedown, like he has been in years. He just kind of tries to battle for position and land some blows, but really not anything dangerous or kind of stand out to be worried of. With that being said, I'm going to give the edge to T. Edwards here. I think he's going to edge out the decision win over Dennis Bermudez. I think he's going to pick him apart. He's going to be able to land the better shots, avoid most of the takedowns, and possibly even land some takedowns of his own. I think the youth and the cardio is also going to play a big factor, but mostly the reach on him is pretty huge. So yeah, I'm going to give the decision win to T. Edwards. Moving on to the next one, we have another short notice replacement, Corey Sandhagen. He was going to square off with John Lineker, which I personally thought was a bad matchup for Corey Sandhagen. That's my own personal opinion. I think John Hands of Stone is a fucking animal. I don't think Corey Sandhagen would have been ready for that next level stand-up. There's kind of levels to this, and although a lot of people I've seen in prediction videos have given the edge to Sandhagen, I don't think they've taken into consideration the level of tier fighters that John Lineker has fought. And he's survived pretty brutal beatdowns against TJ Dillashaw. He survived that, and he had to get his jaw wired shut after. The guy's tough as hell. Corey Sandhagen does have some good body blows, but he doesn't really, he's not a stud yet. He hasn't really proved himself as a stud, and unfortunately for him, he's not really going to get the chance to prove himself against Mario Bautista. I can check Sherdog here. I haven't really checked him out. He does fight out of the MMA Lab, which MMA Lab does have some decent fighters. Alex, Bruce, Leroy, Benson Henderson. So he's Drakkar Close. So he's around good level of fighters. It's not like he's not training with good fighters. So he does have some decent fighters around him. Let's see his record here. Unanimous, guillotine. Let's check here. So pretty mixed. 2 KOs, 3 subs, 1 decision. See, and what I like to do is kind of just check these guys' records, see where they're standing. 7-2. Just kind of get an idea of the competition he's fought. 1-2, so yeah. And then Corey Sandhagen here. Elevations coming off of a win where he was absolutely rocked against Yuri. Just came back. Yeah, coming off of some decent wins. I don't really like predicting these fights because I haven't seen Mario Bautista fight. But given the UFC experience, the Alcantara bout where he was completely done in it. I hate saying it because I had Alcantara winning the fight. Is it Alcantara or Alcantara? That's bugging me. Yeah, Alcantara. I had Alcantara winning the fight, so I was kind of stoked when he had dropped him and he had him in that wicked armbar, and then Corey Sandhagen somehow survived and got the dub. So I'm going to give the win to Corey Sandhagen. Not really sure how, but I'm just giving it purely based off UFC experience and toughness. Moving on to the next bout, we have Alonso Menifield squaring off with Vinicius Castro. I did get to watch Castro's bout. He was on Dana White's Brazilian Contender Series. He did get the win by submission. Horrible stand-up, kind of just stood there walking forward. Alonso Menifield is an animal. With that being said, it's a pretty fairly easy decision, I think, in my mind. Although people... other prediction videos I've watched think that if it goes to later rounds or whatever and Vinicius gets the takedown on Alonso, that he's going to be able to finish the fight. I think that because we've seen Alonso get taken down in the Contender Series fairly easily, I think that Vinicius' lack of stand-up is really going to be shown early in the first. I think Alonso Menifield's going to finish him early. Pretty straight up quick decision for me. Alonso Menifield by KO in the first round. Moving on to the next fight, we have Joanne and this is actually the first fight of the prelims. So the early prelims were those 3. So this is kicking off the prelims, I believe. Let me see here. Card. We'll go on my Fight Pass to see. Check here. I thought this was the first one of the prelims. Oh no, that was the other one. But yeah, this is, first. Okay, well, whatever. So just kicking off to the next fight, we got Joanne Calderwood against Ariane Lipski. JoJo's the underdog in this fight. That's easy money for me all day. Both relatively good stand-up fighters. Ariane's Brazilian. Really is a queen of violence. She does move forward, does strike well, does have some good takedowns. I think the big difference in here is Joanne Calderwood is polished. She's really stepped up her game in her last fights, coming off of a submission victory over a Brazilian who had some good jiu-jitsu background. She trains at TriStar Gym, so she's around world-class trainers with Faraz Sahabi, obviously. As one of my, in my personal opinions, one of the best coaches in the world. I think this fight sure barely comes down to not barely, mostly comes down to Joanne Calderwood being polished, being UFC tested, and being on the rise in her game. I think Ariane Lipski is going to make a statement in the UFC, but I think she needs a few. I think she needs intro fights. I don't think a fight with JoJo is an ideal fight for her. I think JoJo's style matches up very well with Ariane. She has a kickboxing background. She fought professional kickboxing. Ariane has a professional kickboxing background. And JoJo has wicked jiu-jitsu. Ariane also has good jiu-jitsu. The difference is JoJo's been in UFC battles, a lot more UFC battles, has won won and has also lost. She's also lost in the UFC and came back from the losses and improved, which every athlete needs to get to that next level, I believe. So with that being said, I'm going to give the win to Joanne Calderwood via decision or possibly submission. I think that if it gets to the ground, JoJo's really slick, and I think she's going to be able to pull off a submission. Moving on to the next bout, we have Alexander the Great Hernandez versus Donald the Cowboy Cerrone. This is going to be a pretty cool matchup, kind of the old school, and Donald Cerrone with the new hybrid style of Alexander Hernandez. Again, I've seen a lot of prediction videos lead to Donald Cerrone, and this one saying that Alexander is kind of more of a grinder. He's not really ready for the next level of Donald Cerrone in his jiu-jitsu. I'm going to put it out there. I think Alexander Hernandez is a fucking animal. I think he's a beast, and I think he's going to be a top contender really soon. I think he's going to make a statement in this fight. He's got wicked jiu-jitsu. We just haven't seen it yet. I've been following him on his, he has a YouTube page. Pretty wicked, down-to-earth guy, too. Really is devoted to the craft. His whole life is surrounded around UFC. After training, he's doing his good stretching and kind of not really living that lifestyle that Cowboy is, not really devoted fully to the UFC, which understandably, Cowboys has years in UFC's made millions. You know, you don't have to be a full-time 100% UFC commitment when you have money on the side, whereas Alexander Hernandez is young, he's hungry, and he's a hybrid. He's a new generation of fighter. It's hard to explain that. He's an animal. He has wicked strength. We've seen that against Aubin Mercier, just kind of manhandled him. And Aubin Mercier is a big guy for the division, a really tough guy. I think standing up, Cowboys obviously got the kickboxing edge in terms of more polished, more tools to use, mixing up the kicks, better head movement, whereas Hernandez is more of has that power and doesn't have the full range of his stand-up yet. He hasn't developed into a full-range striker where he could knock you out with different kinds of blows yet. But I think he has a significant speed and power advantage to Cowboy, and I think the difference between him and Mike Perry, like we've seen in Cerrone's last fight, is Alexander Hernandez is incredibly smart. I don't think he's going to chase Donald Cerrone. I think he's going to be extremely patient, and I think he's going to hurt Cerrone. I think we're going to see the normal, inconsistent Cowboy who comes off an amazing performance and then gets beat really soon. He seems to have a trend with not performing consistently. I'm not sure what it is, but I think that's what we're going to see from Cowboy. Of course, I'm going to give him the edge in the stand-up and of the jiu-jitsu just purely based on technique. But I think in terms of danger and threat, real-life imminent threat early, and pressure, I'm going to give that to Hernandez. I think Hernandez is going to edge out a win. I think he's either going to sleep Cowboy Cerrone or dominate him, one of the two. With that being said, I'm going to give the win to Alexander Hernandez via decision or KO. Moving on to the next fight, we got another late replacement in Carl, Baby K. Robertson, squaring off with Glover Teixeira. Kind of strange to me. I don't like going with late replacements because I don't feel like you can ever prepare for a fight in a week, no matter how well trained you are. I think you need time to break down the opponent that you're fighting, get footage on them, get together a good game plan, and then train to execute that game plan. I don't think that's something that fighters can do really in a week. So it's kind of strange because I really do think that Carl Robertson is well suited for this matchup. Although he does have a loss to Cesar Ferreira, he got submitted actually, which he was winning in the stand up, and then he went to the ground and then got submitted, which kind of worries me in this fight with Glover because Glover's obviously a wicked jiu-jitsu specialist. His top game's tough. It's just Glover's kind of lack of speed worries me, even though he's coming off of a knockout. It's just so strange the way he's knocked out Misa Serkinov, yet he hasn't really been performing better. It's kind of strange. I don't know if it was a lucky knockout, but I don't ever think there's a lucky knockout. So straightforward, getting into it, I'm gonna give the win here too, and it's kind of just off the top here. Yeah, Glover got dominated against Corey Anderson. Got ragdolled. Misha. 2000 Jared Cannonier. So it's like I'm comparing Jared Cannonier kind of to Carl Robertson in a way in terms of strength. Alright, I'm going to give the edge to Carl Robertson. I'm going to give Carl Robertson the win via KO. I think he's quick, he's got power, and he's going to be able to connect to Glover, even though Glover does have good stand-up. I'm not touching this. I'm not touching these fights on the bet card. Moving on to the next fight. One that the fellas you do not want to miss, you do not want to blink. The 12-gauge Paige squaring off with Rachel Stovic. Seriously, boys, y'all don't want to miss this. I think that it's a pretty easy fight to call. I think 12-gauge Paige is more polished in every department. She's going to avoid... I think Rachel Stovic has that power in her hands, but it's only in her right. She doesn't really mix it up well, doesn't really throw in kicks. She's super tough, though. She does sit down on her punches. Her submission game is tight, though. She does crank. She does have some good rear nakeds and top mounts. Either way, I think I'm going to give the edge to Paige in this. I can't really get into this too much. Just looking at this picture, I'm going to give Paige that one, guys. Moving on to the next bout, we got Joseph Benavidez squaring off with Dustin Ortiz. We've seen them fight once. I think it's going to play out relatively the same way. I'm going to move myself down here. I think Joseph Benavidez wins anywhere the fight goes, and this is coming from a Dustin Ortiz fan. I'm also a huge Joey B fan. I think that Benavidez is a contender, and he's one to watch depending on what happens with this Cejudo and Dillashaw fight. Benavidez has been on the decline, or the rise for a while. I don't think he lost to Sergio Pettis. That split decision wasn't proper. I think this is going to play up standing up. I think that Ortiz needs a rangy fighter and slow fighters in order to work his game. He kind of starts off slow, and he needs to throw volume in order to get comfortable, and I don't think that Joey B is going to let him do that. I think that Benavidez is one of those fighters that he constantly is throwing, and he's constantly changing those angles, so you never get a good look. You're never able to kind of sit down and settle in. You kind of got to guess, and I don't think that that's a good style for Dustin Ortiz. I think that Ortiz may rely on his wrestling, which isn't going to work against Joseph Benavidez, who's incredibly hard to take down and does have a wicked jiu-jitsu game if it does go to the ground. I think this is a fairly safe decision for me. Joseph Benavidez winning by decision. I think he's just going to be able to edge him out in every single round, avoid any dangerous shots really by just keeping the angles, throwing the leg kicks, moving in the shots, moving in and out, and really just getting the win. A safe win. With that being said, I'm going to lock in a decision with Joseph Benavidez via decision. Moving on to the Coco. Got this thing blue. Moving on to the Coco main event of the evening. Gregor Gillespie squaring off with Yancy Mederos. Gregor Gillespie has been incredibly impressive in his last performances. He's got knockouts and submission wins. And he's a wicked fisherman, apparently. Yancy Mederos. I love Yancy Mederos. He is a scrapper, but I think this is also a fairly easy fight to call. I think that Yancy Mederos, his biggest threat obviously is standing up, and he trains with Max Holloway, one of the best in the world. But I just don't think he has a chin. His chin's very testy. He got knocked out against Cerrone. It's really testy, and I think against a guy like Gregor, who's super sharp and early, he always comes in. Like, I find that a lot of fighters, they always have feeling out processes in the first round, whereas Gregor Gillespie kind of goes in and he's sharp early. If he goes to the takedown, he commits to the takedown. He's going to get you down and tap you out. If he stands up, he's going to hit you and he's going to connect. And I think that he's really one to watch also in that division. So with that being said, I'm going to lock in a quick, safe decision with Gregor Gillespie via KO or unanimous decision. I don't think he's going to submit Yancy Mederos, although he does have good submission. I think Yancy's very awkward to submit. He's either going to get knocked out or Gregor's going to he's going to grind out a decision, unanimous decision. Moving into the strange co-main event of the evening, we got Alan Pretty Boy Crowder squaring off with Greg Hardy. I don't know why this is a main event I think because they're trying to hype up Greg Hardy. Alan Crowder is going to get knocked out. Fairly simple. I don't think this is really an impressive fight or anything like that. Alan Crowder is not impressive whatsoever, not in 3 record. Greg Hardy has impressive power, but not even an impressive fighter, really. Not really an impressive fight. Not impressed with this being on the main card, maybe because they were both, or I don't know if they were both in the NFL. But I'm going to give Greg Hardy the unanimous decision win. All right, and moving on to the main event of the evening. What I'm going to actually be doing is I'm going to be posting a full breakdown video of my prediction and a decision in another video. I'm going to be posting that at some point tomorrow. I really want to break down the main event of the evening. I just kind of wanted to run through all the fights quickly, get my predictions out, and really be able to break down and focus on the main fight card. Like this video, guys. Subscribe. I'm going to be posting the main fight card prediction. I hope you guys enjoy.